I'm here now too,
Emma,
and I can hear.
shall we begin?
I think we should begin.
Super, and Emma has started the recording, so wonderful. It's about 9:05, and we will begin. Um, Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on the Forest Economy Stabilization Grants. I'm Mike Snyder, Commissioner of Forest Parks and Recreation and State Forester. My role here this morning is simply to welcome you all and provide a bit of an introduction. I pleased you've been able to join us. Hope you're doing as well as can be out there. And again, assume that we're just glad that you're able to join and that this can be helpful. I'd also like to sort of begin by extending a real sincere thanks and appreciation to an outstanding team of folks here at FPR, A&R Center Office, the ACCD, ADS, and VITA, led by our Deputy Commissioner Sam Lincoln. And that I really want to just quickly name these folks. They've worked incredibly hard to pull this thing together. That's Danielle Fitzko, the Director of our Forestry Division, Paul Frederick, Emma Hansen, and Keith Thompson from the Forestry Division, Kim McKee in our Business Office, Emily Byrne and Matt Chapman from the Secretary's Office, Alex Ivey at Agency of Digital Services, and Renee and Cassie at VITA have our partners in this. All have worked extremely hard with creativity and moxie to stand this grant program up as quickly as possible and as intelligently as possible to make it easy to use and helpful for you all out there. I'll spare you the details of the dynamics and the complexities and the challenges to do something like this, but suffice to say, they've done an amazing job, and they all deserve our thanks and appreciation. And why work so hard? Why push most everything else to the back burner to put so much effort into standing up this grant program? That's kind of my main point here. Why? It's because the forest economy of Vermont, forest landowners, foresters, loggers, truckers, mills, processors, manufacturers, craftspeople, this sector is absolutely fundamental and critically important to so many dimensions of life in Vermont, including our economy, our culture, our quality of life. And it's in trouble, given the unique and pressing challenges of the COVID pandemic, for businesses already strapped and challenged by challenges and difficulties pre-COVID. As our team reached out over the past few months through surveys, a couple of market assessments, direct one-on-one contact with you all and folks who are working, we've learned the variety of challenges and difficulties, variety of impacts, business disruption, revenue losses, increased costs faced by way too many of you. We sort of turned and faced that. We learned from you, and we mobilized and really upped our game with the legislature in the last days to get some attention and advocate for CARES Act funding to be targeted specifically to the forest economy of Vermont. And so the receptivity of a couple of key lawmakers early on was very much appreciated and important in helping us gain full support of the Senate and the House to provide $5 million in CARES Act funding to stand up, again, a grant program for business recovery amid the COVID crisis. So that was not simple or easy, but it was also, we had a good story to tell thanks to you and the work and the value and importance you have. I think it resonated. Grateful for that. That's a good sign here in all of this. And I would encourage each of you to reach out to your own senators and representatives, as you are comfortable doing, to thank them, and also maybe more importantly to let them know just how darn important it is, the work that you do, and to have this kind of support, we hope, to help us fight through it and come out stronger on the other side. Two last quick things before I get out of the way and hand this over to Sam and Danny. I'd say just please keep in touch as we move along here. Follow up with us, particularly with Sam and with me, on any policy issues, ideas you have for needs or things that can be done as we continue to try to work for a complete and lasting recovery for the forest economy in Vermont. And finally, I'm just thrilled to be able to say that we expect the application to be going live tomorrow morning. We'll send out an email blast when it's posted on our website, and hope you'll all be ready to jump in then and take advantage. Again, I'll just leave it at that with my thanks to you all for everything you do. Know that we appreciate it and are here to try to help support, and this is one piece of it. I'll step aside here and turn it over to the team to walk through the webinar and training and get your questions. And I think first up would be Sam. So thank you all again. Good luck. Stay well. Over to you, Sam.
All right. Super. Thank you, Mike. I want to echo Mike's words. We've certainly had a great team working on this that have gone above and beyond, and also for you that have all contacted the department over the last couple of months and kept us informed of what's going on, and so we're glad to be able to have turned that information that you provided to us into this program. So thank you for that and for joining us. So I'm going to jump right in to what the program is and talk about some of the eligibility. The Forest Economy Stabilization Grant program is relief for forest economy businesses that have experienced revenue loss. It's a revenue loss replacement program. Danny, if you go to the next slide. We have $5 million that is available right now, and as Mike said, the application is going to go live tomorrow. We'll be sending that out by email, and it'll be posted on our website. It's really critical that people utilize the information they learned today in the webinar, that they look at what we've posted on our website. There's more information going up every day about how to create and complete create the right documents and upload them properly, fill out your application so that it is deemed complete and able to be reviewed quickly, because these funds are limited. $5 million is only going to go so far for the type of losses that many businesses have seen. But furthermore, if we don't have the funds expended by September 15th, they revert back to other Agency of Commerce and Community Development programs, which there are many Vermonters in need, and the legislature said we've got to get this money out quickly to businesses in need. Otherwise, and if you don't spend it, we're going to redirect it. That we're working under very short time frame, and it's very critical. So we've done our best to anticipate your needs and create an efficient application process. So as we go through here today, one of the things I want to ask everybody is to primarily enter your questions in the chat box, and we'll answer those as they come in. It'll be a lot easier than folks trying to unmute themselves and ask questions that way. And then when we get to the end, if we're down to the very end and it's going to be easier, then we'd be happy to go verbal with a unmuted mics. So the chat is over on, at least on my screen, it's over on the left-hand side, and there's already a few things in there. So feel free to do that as we go along. Okay, Danny, next slide, please. So there are primary eligibility categories that make this program different than others. And the first one is you must be a forest products business and primarily engaged in the managing, harvesting, trucking, processing, manufacturing, crafting, or distributing forest and wood products. And what primarily engaged in means is that more than 50% of your 2019 gross revenue from your business has been derived from one of those types of activities. There's a list on the right-hand side of the screen of various, expanding on those things. As we go down through, some of them are very clear, and some of them we've tried to add helpful content there or in the application manual and frequently asked questions document. Next slide, please. So the second criteria is that any portion of the forest or wood products must be derived from Vermont forests. So if you're a consulting forester, you must self-certify that you work in Vermont. If you're a logging contractor or a mill, that you're using wood from Vermont or harvesting in Vermont's forests. Becomes more important the further away from the woods you get in the supply chain, as you get to the manufacturers, distributors, and crafters. And initially, when our criteria was interpreted in its most basic form coming out of the legislature, we had put a percentage test on this, similar to the revenue test, but it was very clear that it would be very difficult for many businesses to understand how to meet that percentage test when we said 50% or more, and that it would be very difficult in the future if there are federal audits of these programs, which we're operating under that assumption that there will be those future audits. And so we wanted to help Vermont businesses, so we said they needed to essentially self-certify but be prepared to defend that any percentage of the wood they were forest they're working in or the wood they were working with came from Vermont, and made it very clear. But people should be prepared to document that. Again, the further from the woods they get, the more they should be prepared to at least have documentation that sits with their financial records for the period that they need to maintain records for. Next slide, please. And there's a revenue loss. This program is revenue loss reimbursement. The business owners that are eligible have experienced economic harm, and the way that we're defining economic harm in this program is that you, as a business owner, experienced a cumulative revenue loss for the months of the pandemic to date that was $5,000 or more when compared to your cumulative revenue for the same time period in 2019. And we're going to go through a little bit of that side-by-side formula a little later on in the presentation, but essentially it means that you lost revenue, not you lost money. This is a revenue comparison, not a profit and loss comparison down at the bottom into your profit and loss statement. Again, this is a change in the when this grant program was announced. We were going to mirror what the Agency of Commerce did, that had 10%. You had to experience a 50% loss in any one month, and then we were going to award based on 10% of last year's gross revenues, and that was going to be problematic in the future for auditing. And so we scrapped that a week ago and went all hands on deck and changed to be a direct, verifiable revenue loss program, which will be easier. We apologize for any confusion it's created, but we believe it's going to be simpler. It's going to be easier to verify, document now and in the future. So next slide, please. Oh, okay. So I already covered this. So we are so there's another question that's come up. There's been multiple programs that stood up at different times, and the Agency of Commerce went first right after 4th of July weekend with their program, with their criteria. And at that time, some business owners were told that they were not eligible for our program based on the original eligibility criteria that we stood up. And that's since changed, and they are now eligible for our program, and which also includes a maximum grant of $100,000, where the Agency of Commerce started out at $50,000. So right now, the way that it's being handled is each business or organization, if you cannot receive reimbursement for the same revenue loss from the state coronavirus relief fund grants. If you lost $1 in revenue that you can verify, you can't get $2 back, but you can get a dollar for dollar replacement from our program. But so if you already received a grant from the Agency of Commerce, you maxed out the verified revenue loss or the grant from that program, and you still had additional lost revenue that can be verified beyond that, and you're otherwise eligible for this program with the criteria we went through before, you're going to be asked to email us. You can apply. You won't be deemed ineligible, but you will be handling those situations on a case-by-case basis with a careful review, again, to make sure we're not granting $2 for every dollar that was lost in order to maintain compliance with federal and state law on these grants. I know, again, that's changed. It's been evolving, and if you have questions, please make sure to contact us, and we'll help you out. Now I'm going to turn it. Sorry, my dog's going crazy here. I'm now going to turn it over to Danny. Danny, we can't hear you if you're on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Thank you, Sam. And I realized Sam just provided a lot of information, and you may have some questions on what he just shared. Just as a reminder to please put your questions in the chat box, and we will have an opportunity at the end of the PowerPoint to go over your questions. Sam gave you an overview of the eligibility requirements and the award. I'm now going to take you to the next step. You're ready to apply and get you ready to make the application a successful experience. And so I'm going to go over the information that you're going to need, some tips and tools, and then some resources that we have developed for you to help you through the application process. The key to developing your application is to really get all the information you need ahead of time. So I'm going to go over some of those pieces of information now so you can start to think about how you're going to collect those. One of the pieces of information you're going to be asked for is your Vermont account identification number. This is not actually required, but if you do have a Vermont account identification number, which you would use if you're filing for the Department of Labor, it does help to pre-populate some fields. So while not required, if you have it, it will help you out in the application. We'll also need either your Federal Employee Identification Number, your EIN, or your Social Security number. If you're a sole proprietor, you're not going to have an EIN, so we'll ask for your Social Security number. You will need one or the other. You're also going to be asked for your NAICS code. We recognize that not everybody has a code, and that your code may not be directly associated with a forest or woods products code. We do ask you, if you do have a NAICS code, to use the one that is on your federal income tax filings. That, even if it's not a forest or wood products code, if you do put one in that is not directly a forest or wood products code, it will prompt you to explain what your primary business is and why. It does not make you ineligible. If you do not have a code, it'll ask you to select the one that's most closely related to your primary business activity. We are asking for the codes because it'll help us at the end identify where the resources went to and what sector. It's also going to ask you if you have received any other compensation, any other like PPP funds, EIDL funds, or any other federal or state funding in response to the pandemic. So kind of getting all those materials together ahead of time will be helpful. You're also going to be asked to supply 4 documents. And these documents, and I'll probably, you're going to hear me say this about 5 times, need to be in PDF form. You're going to be asked for your 2019 income statement or profit and loss statement in monthly intervals. You're also going to be asked for that for 2020 from January through July, your 2019 federal tax return, and your 2019 Vermont tax return. We realize if you do not have 2019 tax returns, you will use your most recent one. Again, these all need to be in PDF copies. We have some tips and tools for you in some of the resources that we have available to help you develop your income statements. And also, sometimes PDFs are difficult to break up into individual documents. We give you some tools on that as well. A little bit more information on the income statements. We are fortunate that we've been able to talk to the reviewers at VITA who have been reviewing ACCD grants, and they've given us some good tips on how to develop these statements based on what they were seeing coming in. So your income statements or profit and loss statements for 2019 will need to be for the full calendar year. For 2020, you will need it for January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Recognizing it could be difficult to get your expenses in, you'll definitely need your revenue in. It's also important that you stick with how you're reporting them, either cash basis or accrual basis. You can't switch from one to the other. It needs to be the same throughout. And this is based on what our reviewers need to do a thoughtful review process. You can use all kinds of different accounting software, spreadsheets, other documents to prepare it. It doesn't matter the tool you use. What does matter is that you need to have per month revenue first, expenses next, and then end with either your net profit or your loss. A quick tip, we learned this yesterday, a lot of people use QuickBooks. If you are using QuickBooks, you can create a profit and loss statement by going through the custom feature and developing a profit and loss standard report. Again, income statements must be uploaded in PDF. Some people may have difficulty, they don't have a scanner. There are great phone apps that you can use. Genius Scan or Adobe Scan are just two tools that you can use to scan documents. We are also so fortunate that our partners at Vermont Housing and Conservation Board have service providers available to support businesses that may have difficulty filling out an application. Maybe they don't have internet access or a computer. So if you do need assistance in filling out an application, you can go to the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board Farm and Forest Viability Program and fill out their intake form. They will then assign you a service provider to work with you to help fill out an application. This is a great service that they are providing, and we met with them yesterday. They trained them up on the application, so they're ready to go to support you. A couple of reminders and tips. Grants will be awarded on a first come, first served basis. We have, $5 million has been allocated for this grant program, and grants will be reviewed in the order that they are received. So it is important that you enter all your information in correctly when applying. If we have to go back to you to get information, maybe your business name did not match what's on your federal tax return, we'll have to go back and get the correct information, and that puts your application on hold. We will go back to you at least at 3 times to get correct information. Then after that, the application will need to be resubmitted. So we're telling you it's first come, first service, but I also want to pause and say, take your time in filling out the application. The application itself, if you have all your information available up front, should only really take you about 15 minutes. It's a very simple application. So take your time when filling it out, because little mistakes of the wrong name or wrong document upload or the wrong format will put you back in the queue and will not move forward. So while it's first come, first serve, please take your time. Applications, again, will be considered incomplete if it's a PDF document. We heard with the ACCD applications, a lot of photos were being received. It does need to be a PDF, and we'll go back to you. Another tip is to not use Internet Explorer when filling out the application, Google Chrome, Mozilla, Foxfire, or Safari. And also a reminder that VHCB service providers are available to assist you. We do have some resources available to support you throughout the application development process and award process. I will click off of this and go to the website next and share with you. We have a pretty robust FAQ section that we've been building out based on questions that we've already heard from you. We also have a step-by-step application manual, and that'll be a great tool when you're sitting there filling out the application. It really walks you through it step by step. And then if you need any help along the way, have a question, use our email address, forest.covidresponse@vermont.gov. We have a team behind that's monitoring this email address. You'll know them. It's me, Sam, Paul, and Emma pretty much are going to be behind the scenes managing the email, and we have a daily huddle where we'll be responding to you as quickly as we can. So now I'm going to take a tour of the website. Right on our homepage from the Department of Forest, Parks, and Recreation, you can access the grant application. You can go right on the homepage banner is access, and also a link, what we call these widgets, you can get right there. So I'll click on that. And this is our main landing page. You can then get from here to the application. While it's not live yet, it will be live tomorrow. And when you click on the application, and we'll make it a little bit more prominent on that page, you get to our main landing page for the application. Right up front, we ask you to look at some of the resources that we have to support you. As I mentioned, we've developed a pretty robust frequently asked questions. When you click on this, this is the list of the questions from how to apply, am I eligible, what about the applications and forms that I need, how are the grants awarded, and then we go into an answer to all those questions. We have a pretty good list now, but I expect it to continue to evolve as your good questions come in, and we'll be able to provide more answers. Additionally, on that page, we have the application guide. This will be, again, as I mentioned, a great resource for you as you are developing your application. It literally takes you step by step through the application process. What you need to have ahead of time to get your documents ready, how to register with screenshots of the application, tips along the way. So this really is going to be a real good resource for you when you're in the application development phase. And then again, use our email to ask us any questions and if you need help. And then also don't forget about the Vermont Housing Conservation Board Farm and Forest Viability Service Providers. So with that, I'm going to go back to the main chat, and then we can answer any questions you may have. And I think, Sam, I'm going to pin you if you put your video on. And then Emma, if there's any questions that came in.
Yeah, Danny, we had 2 questions come in that we could talk about now if you're ready.
Sounds good.
Great. So the first one, Bill mentioned that it'd be good to talk about what happens if someone doesn't have their July 2020 financial statements ready.
So that question came in yesterday as well, and we are drafting up language that if your business, I'm assuming might be, let's say, on an accrual basis, and you have your end of the month statement to complete and reconcile internally, we will allow business to submit. They have to submit their actual revenue, and expenses can be estimated for the month. It should be noted it's in draft form, and but they will and we may ask for an updated financial statement at a later date to have in the file with your application. But revenues have to be final and complete, so that's how we're handling that, and we'll have that posted on the FAQ document soon.
Great, thanks, Sam. Another question was, someone asked, is it okay to have a photo of a tax form as long as that's converted to a PDF format? The answer to that would be yes, as long as it's saved as a PDF, but we recommend looking into free phone apps such as EasyScan, where you can actually take what is quote-unquote photo with your phone, but it'll automatically save it in a PDF format that looks familiar, and then you can email that to yourself. Next question is, for sole proprietors who received PUA unemployment payments, do those payments need to be included/reported in the application?
Can you state that again? Which is it? The PUA unemployment?
Correct. Do those payments need to be included in the application?
And that's the self-employed unemployment insurance. Is that correct?
Dave H., do you want to clarify that question in the chat? Since for sole proprietors.
So okay. So for sole proprietors, okay. So it is that. So we're still waiting for that. We had that question submitted also on the email address, and we ended up that's gone up to the federal level to be answered because the state administrators of the CARES Act money were unsure about that. What I would recommend doing is, if you're a sole proprietor who has received self-employed uninsurance, that you still apply, and you will be asked in your application if you received other federal payments, and just note it in there. And if we need more information, you'll need to note the source and the amount of the other federal payment, and we will, if we need more information, we'll be in touch. But we don't have a determination right now if that would be deducted. It wouldn't make you ineligible, but it may or may not be deducted from the total grant payment.
Great. The next question was, this is a clarification question. Someone was asking about which web browsers they should use. As a clarifier, the only one you should not use is Internet Explorer. The other ones that were listed there were good ones, so it is fine to use Chrome, Safari, etc. Just don't use Internet Explorer. Next question. Do you need the full 2019 tax return or just certain pages?
Can I ask Renee can she unmute herself and answer that one, please? If possible. Or maybe post a reply in the chat.
I just unmuted her if she's available.
All right.
Yeah. Please post full returns.
Okay. Next question.
Okay. Are these grant funds going to be taxed like regular income?
They are taxable. You will get a 1099-G from the state of Vermont with the grant amount to report on your 2020 tax return.
Is the grant amount a 100% hang on, chat box moved on me. A 100% replacement amount of lost revenue. For example, if 2019 versus same months of 2020 show loss of $20,000, is grant amount eligible for going to be that full amount?
If starting at the top, if the business owner has demonstrated revenue loss of at least $5,000 for the months of the pandemic, cumulative for those months when compared to 2019, they're eligible for anything from $5,000 up to $100,000, dollar for dollar revenue loss. So if the business showed $20,000 in revenue loss, they're eligible for that, less any deductions. If you receive that business revenue loss insurance or that, or if you already, again, we can't, if you already received a grant from another state agency that covered that revenue loss, you would not be eligible for that. So yes, with a few asterisks on there, a few possible no's or deductions.
Are the profit loss statements required in the application for the full 2019 tax year and 2020 to date, or just the 5 months in question, March through July?
Yes, to the first part of your question, full 2019 tax return and monthly financial statements. It's laid out in the FAQ guide how they need to be entered and submitted. So your full 12 months of 2019 with a total column, and then your year-to-date 2020 financial statements need to be entered as well. And then in the application, you're going to enter the revenue for those 5 months of 2019 and 2020 for the comparison months for the grant amount.
Okay. If your business is based in another state but has local Vermont offices that have experienced a loss, is the business eligible to participate in the grant?
The way we have understood it is it has to be domiciled or headquartered here, and sometimes it's incorporated in the state is another way to put it. But if it's headquartered out of state, even with offices here, it's we're treating it as it's ineligible.
Another clarification on tax returns. Can you remind us, if one's 2019 tax return is on extension, can one use the 2018 return and replace it later when the 2019 return is available?
You need to enter your most recent tax return, which some people are still working under extension for getting their 2019 income tax return finished. So you could submit your 2018 along with your 2019 financial statements. The one thing you will be able to apply like that, but if there are large discrepancies between your 2018 tax return and your 2019 monthly financial statements, you may get a request to submit more information or support why there's a discrepancy, or be asked to hold your application until your tax return is completed. So you can apply and can send it in there, but just know that it may be flagged.
What deadline do these grant funds need to be spent by?
December 30th. So if you receive a grant, if you apply tomorrow and you receive your grant funds, you need to have them spent by the end of this year, December 30th.
Do the PPP loans or EIDL loans count towards our 2020 revenue?
They do not. They're accounted for separately in your application, and they're not deducted from the grant totals.
If a business received a Vermont Working Lands Business Grant, which is project-based from the Department of Ag, would this make you ineligible?
So right now, that any working lands grants that have been granted out so far have not been for revenue loss reimbursement. They have been project-based, as was mentioned in the question. And so right now that would not be a duplicate grant, so you would be eligible for both, is my understanding of it. And the Working Lands Program is going to be announcing grants. That's one thing that we didn't mention at the beginning, is or I'll stay on this question, but the Working Lands Program is going to announce new grant applications very soon, and those may be revenue loss replacement as well. I'm not certain if the eligibility has been finalized on that, but it's important for folks to know that if they, we already talked about, somebody may have applied for and received an ACCD grant already, and we've mentioned how we're going to handle that. But if there's also working lands coming, many of them are based on revenue loss, and it is the state agencies are going to be sharing the information, the confidential information, to make sure that of no duplicate revenue compensation, revenue loss compensation. So I think the simple answer to your question is that no, that a previous working lands grant before this would not make you ineligible. It's also, so go ahead. Next question.
Okay. So you've mentioned that the grant application opens tomorrow and that it's first come, first serve. But is there a closing date for accepting applications?
As of right now, we intend to remain open until September 4th. There are two things that might change that. One would be is if we have expended all the funds sooner on the first come, first served basis. The other way we might close the application sooner with a notice would be if the payment process is taking longer than anticipated, because if we don't have the checks written by September 15th, the money reverts back to the Agency of Commerce, and so we may have to give a last call for applications to come in. If we think that the process is going to take longer, we may need to cut it off earlier to make sure we get you your check, because the last thing we want to do is have somebody be eligible and not be able to fund them because the money was reverted to another agency.
Okay, how will a company prove it has spent the funds by the end of 2020? What documentation of follow-up filings will be required?
We will have to post there are various federal requirements, and there's links to some of the requirements in our documents, but that's a question I can't answer off the cuff directly. We will need to we'll take that question down and we'll post an answer in the FAQs for the question asker, or for everybody to see.
If your format for financial statements each month is 2 pages, one for the P&L with a year-to-date total on each one, and the other for the balance sheet, can we submit one in the format of 24 pages for 2019 and 10 pages for 2020?
I don't think we require balance sheet. I may have to get that. We may have to take that question down and respond to that person. But if you can put everything on multiple pages in one PDF, one large PDF file, and submit it. Again, this one might be a question for Renee if she's available. If I'm not answering it,
I unmuted her if she's available.
Okay.
I was just going to see if she was there, but she may have stepped away.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
Well,
That question was from Bill Sayre. Bill, we can follow up with you. John, this next question is, what is an appropriate expenditure of funds?
So we will post more guidance on this. There's lengthy guidance, but we will post something in more layman's terms on our FAQ page on this. But what the guidance we've been given is that business expenses that you would have used that revenue for, if you've demonstrated the economic harm and the revenue loss, that is what you can spend the money on. We will post clear language in our website, in our FAQ guidance as soon as possible to give you clarity on that as well.
Are there any other questions? I've gotten to the end of my list. If anyone else has one they'd like to type in the box. We've got radio silence, Sam. We might have answered all of the questions.
That was a pretty good round. Is there anyone who hasn't typed in a question that wants to unmute and ask one? Oh, here's Renee. Can you unmute, Renee?
I believe I can unmute now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, just quickly on the income statements. Under the custom schedule on QuickBooks, you want to select bi-monthly. And the number of pages doesn't matter. And if you do a combined, that's fine as well. Just upload it to both 2019 and 2020. We're really going to be looking at the revenue lines, but we do want the full income statements. We want full year 2019 and year-to-date 2020.
Thank you.
Someone has asked what time this application will go live tomorrow.
We expect tomorrow morning, generally first thing to mid-morning, and we don't want to necessarily say a certain time just in case we run into any glitches that need repairs or anything like that. So we believe that's it'll be, and we'll send out an email if anybody's on here that's not on our listserv, that doesn't get our broad listserv email messages, notices, please sign up for that. You can do that on the website or other places, and we'll also post it on the website. So, Renee, I see there's another question that's popped up about balance sheet. That we're doing income statement. I'm saying financial statement. I may be inappropriately using interchanging the term of financial statement and income statement.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to read the chat. So the income statement for 2020 being year to date?
Does our balance sheets needed as part of, are we doing just P&Ls or is it balance sheet too?
Did we share the same recommendation as ACCD on what is an income statement and what are we expecting to see for profit and loss?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I think I would refer you to the FAQs and just make sure that the message is consistent.
Okay. Okay. So to the person who asked that question, if you can, I can look at our FAQs.
I could answer another question that I just saw pop up. Does PPP count towards your 2020 income? And it does not count as revenue.
So the answer to what is an income statement, I'll just read quickly from the FAQs. Income statement, also called profit and loss, P&L, or statement of revenue expenses, shows revenue and sales before expenses or deductions, and the business expenses and deductions for a specific period of time. The revenue minus the expenses equals the net profit or loss for that period of time. Income statement report should use cash or accrual basis. You may use accounting software, spreadsheets, or other document programs to prepare an income statement. The tool used is less important than the format. The format should be listed from top down, revenue first, expenses next, net profit or loss last. And as Renee said, if you use QuickBooks, run a custom report that includes monthly information. So this is all based on profit and loss statements, no balance. We are not requiring the upload of a balance sheet. And so that's if there are other questions, please send them, or if something isn't clear, please send them to us.
Looks like that's the end of the questions.
All right, go ahead.
No, I'll just remind everybody that to use our email address to get a hold of the team, and we'll be sure to respond to as quickly as we can. We'll continue to update the FAQs. Remember to use the application guide, and hopefully tomorrow morning for your first thing, we'll be able to get the application live, and we'll send an email reminder out when it is. And take your time filling it out so we don't have a hold, because we have to get some additional information from you.
So the email address is forests.covidresponse@vermont.gov, and that, as was mentioned earlier, we there's the team at FPR that you know that gets those emails, and we'll sort them out and answer them as quickly as we can. Get the answers as soon as possible for you, and we'll also be updating the FAQs with what comes in. And please make sure ask us before you apply, or as quickly as you can if you have any concerns. We're here to help and serve.
Thanks, Sam. And I've just posted the link to the grant website in the chat box. If you don't already have that, that's where you can go and find the links to the application, the FAQs, and the application guide.
Great. Well, thank you all very much for attending, and please let us know how we can be of service to you. Thank you and have a good day.